This is information.
Hello and welcome to Web Design Workflow. There are many steps, big and small, to designing a website, and depending on your web development team, the steps can be slightly different, but most workflows can be summarized by these big steps. Number 1, gathering your client's requirements. Number 2, writing up some preliminary documentation. Number 3, putting together some mockups or prototypes. Number 4, writing the actual code. Number 5, testing this code. And number 6, launching the site. Let's take a closer look at these steps. We begin at the beginning. Gathering your client's requirements means having a discussion with your client about goals. What business goals are you trying to achieve? What problem you're trying to solve? Are there business constraints that you need to take into account? Also, who is going to be using this site? This is where you and the client establish the budget, the timeline, the deliverables, the technical needs, and the visual style, and most importantly, the content. Ideally, you want to have at least 80% of the content from your client before you do anything else. This can include photos, copy, logos, branding elements like typefaces and color schemes, multimedia, and more. The more you have in the beginning, the more you reduce the chance of other content coming in and causing you to have to go back and redesign parts of your site, or worse, start over. Once you have your content in hand, then you can move into documentation. These can include pieces such as a user flow diagram, site maps, wireframes, mood boards, site personas, and interaction narratives. Wireframes are a key step in the workflow. They can be as simple as low-fidelity line drawings sketched on paper, or high-fidelity documents drafted in prototyping software like OmniGraffle or Balsamiq. Most of the time, there are only placeholders for images, and no color has been added. This is just a basic structure, like a set of blueprints for a building. At this point, it is a good time to go back to the client and get buy-in. Again, you want to avoid having to do work over because it wasn't something the client liked or wanted. After wireframes are approved, you can then start creating mockups or prototypes. Many designers will flesh out a wireframe in Photoshop, creating low, medium, or high-fidelity comps with images and real colors, like a color rendering of the building, to go back to that analogy. This is another good client buy-in point. Then on to actual HTML structure and CSS style coding, and JavaScript, jQuery, and other interactive coding. Depending on your team, this is the point where back-end development, like building databases, occurs. After coding comes testing, preferably with future users of the site. Test with as many devices and browsers that you can find. There are also simulators and testing tools that can help with this. Code can be rendered differently from browser to browser, so it's important to find these differences. There are inevitably bugs to fix, and feedback can be very important in refining the design. Depending on the site, the next step can include transitioning the code to a content management system like Drupal or WordPress. This is likely for sites that need content to be updated on a regular basis. In any case, the code goes to web hosting and the website is launched. This may feel like the end, but site maintenance can also be part of your contract with a client. Periodic updates might be part of your job, especially if analytics or user feedback show that certain changes can improve business in some way. And after a while, maybe a year, it could be time for Site 2.0, and the process could start over or pick up in the middle somewhere. Keep in mind that this is a basic summary of the workflow. There are infinite variations based on how a web development team works. Some places do more testing during the process. Some places skip Photoshop altogether by making really functional wireframes and going from there, and so on. In the next video, we'll have a closer look at some of this documentation.